Well, it's time right now to get those legal questions answered. Go ahead and call us, 256-536-0077. We got Michael with our friends over at Timberlake, League & Brooks joining us right now. And while we wait for that first call, we're going to talk a little bit about folks who might get injured while on their vacations.
Yeah, so I was, reading through the news this morning, and Casey Musgraves, who's I guess she's a country western singer.
I think I've heard the name.
Yeah, she's attractive young lady, I think.
Right.
And she's got a good story about her experience with Willie Nelson, but she'll have to look that up. But anyway, she was in Mexico and she fell on some water and she broke a rib. And so we were thinking about this. Okay,
wow.
Well, what do you do if you're injured on vacation? And since it's summertime and a lot of people are out there, traveling. The things that you need to do when you're on vacation are as follows. One is, before you leave, if you're going out of the country on vacation, make sure that your health insurance policy will cover you for treatment that you may need while you're on vacation. Some countries have, basically a nationalized healthcare system that will provide care to you, even though you're a foreign resident, or a foreigner in their country. But you want to make sure that if that is not the case, right, that you have the ability to pay for the medical services that you need. The second thing you need to do is, consider or understand that not all countries have the same type of civil justice system, right, that the United States does. And you can be injured out of the country in another country, and it can be somebody else's fault, and there is no tort system there. There is no right of recovery against the person that hit you, or it can be, or hurt you, and it can be a limited recovery. So those are the things you need to look at, consider when you're traveling abroad. But the main thing is, use common sense. Right. Try not to, do anything that puts you at risk, and try to stay safe when you're on the road.
And do want to remind you once again, go ahead and call us. We'd love to answer your question right now. Michael Wood, the number 256-536-0077, 256-536-0077. On that topic, just a question, but a lot of these, when you travel to other countries, certainly to some of the Mexico resorts and so forth, the companies that run those resorts have the big conglomerates we're all familiar with, the big names.
Sure.
We won't name any of them here, but does that make it easier when they also do business in the United States, some of those companies, to be able to sue if necessary when you get hurt?
Yeah, I think in that situation, obviously if you're dealing with like a Hilton that does business in the United States, or one of the major companies,
Wyndham,
then it is easier because you're basically they're providing services in a foreign venue, but you may be able to have access to the American court system in order to get justice.
Gotcha.
Same thing with cruise lines. We see a lot of that in Florida, where people are getting hurt on cruises, where there's a lot of activity of that in the Florida federal courts.
Gotcha. And we do want to certainly make sure folks understand that we're not implying in any way that folks like Wyndham and Hilton cause more accidents than anybody else. They do not. Accidents happen no matter where you go on vacation.
Right, and it's just a matter of volume. They see those bigger names see more people. They're going to be more incidences.
And of course, there's also the dangers of the road when you're traveling to these vacation destinations and so forth.
Yeah, we had a lawyer that was in our office, and he's gone to Scotland. And basically, he was renting a car in Scotland, and Scotland drives on the left side of the road.
Right.
And so he was. I said, well, was it hard to get a car because you're from America and you drive on the right side of the road? And he said, no, it was. They rented it to me. They rented me a BMW for and just said, hey, drive on the left side of the road. And he said it was a little bit of a harrowing experience because he said he was just really, really cautious about the whole thing. But they rented him a car, no questions. He had an American driver's license and went on.
I was in the Navy stationed in Japan at one point, and that was harrowing.
Oh, sure.
You don't just go from driving the way we drive in this country to driving on the opposite side of the road.
Oh, no. And if you go to right. Greece, Mexico City, whatever, they drive a lot different than we do in the United States.
Oh, yes. All right. Well, in any case, so anything more important that we need to know just about vacations before we wrap it up?
No, just do your research, do your homework, and make sure that you understand what the possibilities are if you get hurt overseas. Some insurance companies offer, you have travel insurance
right.
that'll pay for your plane tickets. You can also buy a rider for healthcare insurance, so that if you're overseas and you get hurt, you make sure you've got coverage. There are services that sell you private jet services, so that if you're hurt overseas and you want to come back to the United States to get care, you can get on the med jet and come back.
And don't forget, if you didn't get your question answered this week, we'd love to hear from you next week. We'll be back here at the same time looking for your call. Michael, thank you as always.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.